Teams from Baltimore, Maryland, Fremont County, Idaho, Omaha, Nebraska, and the San Francisco Bay Area, all funded under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Sustainable Communities Initiative, came together to explore new ideas and share proven practices.
I think for the first time in a very long time, the elephant in the room is being addressed.
What had often been absent from discussions on economic development is how we achieve sustainable prosperity for everyone in ways that create good jobs for people who need them and benefits that are widely shared. This kind of development can require some unusual partnerships between business, government, nonprofits, and even community volunteers, and it can benefit from reimagining collaboration. Participants heard from practitioners in the fields of health, civic technology, impact investing, business support, and the federal government, all working toward broader prosperity. I want to welcome all of you. My name is Vince Kohler. I'm with Social Policy Research Associates, and I'm really excited about having this convening here in Oakland, right next door to where we're located. We are going to be joined online through a webcast by 20-25 sites or so around the country. We have a couple of special guests, Kalima Rose with PolicyLink. We have Josh Geyer here with the U.S. Housing and Urban Development.
In 6 to 8 months, your communities will be living these plans. What will they look like? How can you ensure that they will be the template for your community's future? How can you build and maintain a base of support, both in terms of community mobilization and funding, to make your vision a reality? Your conversations over the next couple of days will help you answer these questions.
We know that all of you have been very data-driven in your aspirations for change, and we know that the next 2 days are going to be a platform for you to know how to enact your vision in robust workforce and economic inclusion ways. So I wish you great luck in your endeavors, and I look forward to working with you to do that.
The first panel offered inspired examples of new approaches to old problems, a long-term philanthropic focus on building healthy communities, a new workforce law that has innovation in its name, a commitment to growing talent along with locally owned businesses backed by investment capital, and finally, how good governance and good policy can benefit from tech tools.
A team of us, Vince, me, Sujata, others, ran a series of simulations around the idea of leadership. We brought our own research to bear and also talked about many examples of new kinds of players playing important roles in economic and workforce development and in non-traditional ways, using new tools.
I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're engaged. A private health foundation is engaged in a place-based initiative, talk a little bit about what building healthy communities actually is, and then highlight some examples of some of the work that's happening in some of our places that really directly relate to economic development.
We have an opportunity to redesign our system with the customer in the center. Not the law, not the regulations, not the side-by-side, but the customer. Whether that's on one hand the employer, on the other hand, someone who's a job seeker, someone who's a student.
Our focus is to work with the entrepreneur, the individual that is growing a business, creating jobs locally, so that they understand how they close or open doors to those that are talented and could potentially bring a ton of resources to their own communities as they build these organizations.
I can promise you that every other week there is a failure, even more high stakes, that happens at the state and local level. And so we like to say that we're in the business of helping mayors avoid their healthcare.gov moment.
The second panel demonstrated how uncommon partners were coming together in two metropolitan areas, the Baltimore metropolitan area and the San Francisco Bay Area. Baltimore's on-ramp to prosperity particularly focused on workforce development as an essential component, without which a prosperity agenda and support for affordable housing would not be sustainable. Representatives of the stakeholders in the San Francisco Bay Area described their plan for regional prosperity, which focused on a middle-wage job strategy and on ensuring that there be a better match of transportation and housing with economic opportunities, which are spread throughout the Bay Area.
A lot of the work that was happening around land use planning and transportation planning was innovative, interesting, integrating a lot of themes around affordable housing, transportation costs, access, but there was kind of this missing piece on really thinking through the workforce and employment.
What we didn't realize until we started doing the study on barriers to employment opportunity was that 82% of all the job seekers face 3 or more barriers. So it's not one single thing that's keeping people from accessing opportunity. It is truly more than one thing.
So one of the underlying tenets of the plan is to really better integrate transportation and land use planning, and as our region grows, to try to make sure the growth both in housing and jobs is close to the transportation network that we just heard about in Baltimore is an issue, and it's certainly an issue here, but that's one of the things that we're trying to address.
To not focus on the employers or on the neighborhoods or on the industries, but to start with people who are making less than $18 an hour. So we defined that population and we said, what we're doing in this economic prosperity strategy is really focusing on those folks.
Our definition of economic prosperity holds all these 3 ideas together. Do our pathways to the middle work, do all the great transformation and workforce development, grow the middle, but really be much more intentional about expanding middle wage jobs. But these strategies that for some parts of the community are a little bit more controversial. Not everyone's in love with these sets of mandates that some people identify with, but we said that has to be a part of our economic prosperity.
Teams worked with local, regional, and national experts on topics in 4 areas of sustainable community development. They worked on transit-oriented development, on using data to promote equity in economic and workforce development, on planning career paths for low-income workers, including focusing on tech jobs across sectors, and on strategies for creating quality jobs and improving career mobility for low and moderate income families. And finally, teams challenged each other to apply their new insights, approaches, and tools with an eye toward increasing community impact over time. The event was organized by Social Policy Research Associates, Strategic Economics, and the Natural Resources Defense Council, part of a larger capacity building team that has been working with grantees under the leadership of the Institute for Sustainable Communities.
I think what was unique about it was that there was the perfect mix of actors that can really make things happen. On the panel that I was on, you had Good for America that's interested in looking at thinking about technology solutions to implement good policies. You had practitioners on the ground that are meeting people where they are and working them through a system. You had federal policymakers who are thinking about how do we take the lessons from those practitioners and implementation projects and reflect them in our future policy. And then you finally had philanthropy, which is trying to figure out where to best make their investments to continue to stoke the fire of a lot of this innovation.
The whole day has been enlightening. I picked up a couple of new ideas. One was to begin to think about the career paths and the quality of jobs and apprenticeship programs. And the one big thing that stuck out for me was professionalizing low-wage jobs, which to help people to get on the pathway, I think that's something that we'll definitely take back.
Workforce development is key, and that's why I'm here. We want to match up the capabilities of our workforce with these new economic sectors that we're developing. So the various modalities that I've heard discussed about how do we create the skill sets among the potential employees and what those skill sets are, how do we match up opportunities with people, and then how do we overcome some of the barriers to employment. Some of those barriers are transportation, childcare, and then there's discrimination.
When we read about government and we read about the country these days with all the changes, a lot of the news we see is really bad news in the sense that we can't function, we can't solve problems as a society. And clearly there's some amazing solutions out here, and I think the common theme is they're very holistic solutions, so that people are getting out of silos and saying, I don't care what my traditional function has been, I'm going to complement what another group is doing to get things done.
For example, workforce development folks addressing housing and transportation issues, people who are traditionally land use folks really thinking about economic development. That seems to me like it's a new way of working and is inspiring and certainly what we're trying to do here in the Bay Area.
Another thing I wanted to mention, though, is we had a little conversation this morning about the new Federal Workforce Act, which one of the speakers called it the Opportunity Act. And in a lot of the world we're in with all these great examples of new partnerships and new companies emerging, it's important to remember the value of government policy to establish a framework and a set of rules that everyone works towards.
One particular interesting presentation was by Code for America. So I think a lot of us don't necessarily think about, in terms of access of services and enabling people, that the way government forms are structured and how you access programs is actually a barrier. Just the amount of effort, whether it's filling out 50 screens online, you're needing to go to a permit office and get 10 permits to start your business. There's a lot of streamlining that local governments can do to truly benefit and be welcoming entrepreneurs and those trying to access social service programs.
Who has 45 minutes to sit on the phone when you have to take a 4-hour bus ride to a job that barely pays a living wage? All of these things work together, and if we can use the power of tech, the power of developing people, and make this more humane so that we are addressing each other as humans first, and all of the other stuff goes away, then I think that we can get to what all of our communities are working towards in having a fair and equitable and prosperous community.